In this video, we're going to test for boost leaks. First, what you're going to do is grab yourself a 2.5-inch cap, silicone coupler, hopefully the same size as your intercooler piping, and some sort of check valve. In this case, I'm using a tire inner tube, but you can use a valve stem. You can use a check valve from really anything that'll hold air one direction. First, you don't want to drill a hole in the center of that sucker so you can put that valve stem, check valve, whatever it is in. You got to make sure it's airtight though, that's the big deal here. After your dry test fit, you're going to go and get some epoxy. In this case, I'm using some good old classic JB Weld. Any shade tree mechanic's going to have some of that around. What I like to do is grab stuff out of my trash or whatever I have around to use as a mixing plate for all the JB Weld or whatever two-part epoxy you're using. You can probably even use some RTVs, but the setup time's a little long on it. Now that you've got all that finished, you're going to move on to the next part of the build. What I ended up having to do was take one of these caps right here. I believe it's like a 2-inch cap that I found over at a big box store. It fits the compressor outlet coupler on my little T25 Garrett. Just gonna throw it up on the bandsaw and give it a couple cuts. After you get everything nice and cut up, we're going to head on over to the engine. Remove the coupler from the throttle body. Go ahead and remove your intake from your turbo. I'm going to remove my bypass valve hose. I'm going to tighten down the plug on the throttle body side of my charge pipes. After that, I'm going to use the V-band clamp that's already there on my intake, and I'm going to use it for our makeshift boost leak tester. So now that you got everything nice and buttoned up, you're going to move over to the idle air control valve, which is underneath the throttle body. Some people just let this vent to atmosphere whenever they go full standalone. I like to let it still control my idle. It makes cold starts much easier. I still have some hot start issues with Mega Squirt, but that's not because of the idle air control valve. So what I did was that piece that you saw initially, it was like a 1-inch dowel that I had, and I put on the bench grinder and got it down to about 3/4 of an inch circumference. It fit pretty snug, and it should hold under pressure. After you get everything nice and plugged in, you're going to grab your compressor. I'm just using the one I use for autocross. This is one that I have in case I need to run a few more PSI on my tires. It's not necessarily very powerful. It's super noisy, and it's really not optimal for this, but it's all I have at the time. I don't have any air in the shop yet, so this is what I'm using. So while the compressor's going, what you're going to want to do is start feeling around for some of the leaks in it. Some, any place you might have air leaking out, you're not really going to hear because that compressor is so loud. Unless you have an external tank that you can fill up and pressurize the system, where it's pretty silent, you probably hear the hissing. But in this case, I was just feeling around, and I suspected my blow-off valve having a leak for a while. And under this light load of pressure, it didn't have one, but the area around it at which it was welded had a small leak. So I'd taken my intercooler piping to a local radiator shop and had them weld it together for me. It was relatively cheap, and he was, I guess, experienced, but some of the welds are shoddy at best. This one on here was pretty contaminated, and it had a bunch of little pinholes in it, so you could tell that it was definitely it was leaking from there. It's probably not my only leak, but it's the one I'm going to go ahead and fix currently. So I'm just feeling it, showing you where it's at. And then once I I took it off. This is where it was leaking from, at these little pinholes right here. And that's how you get your boost leak test kit going. It helped me find my boost leak. Probably have a few more. I'm going to try and fix this up and keep testing the system. Hopefully this helped you out. Leave a comment, subscribe if you liked the video.